Hello, 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 and welcome to this month's Deal Clinic Live. I have with us our usual suspects. We have Bruce Mannering of Bond Finance Limited, and we have Tim Sanders, who is our very own investor on the platform itself. If you're watching on the replay, this will be going out to our YouTube channel. And so any questions that you may have, feel free to send those into admin@sourcinginvestments.co.uk. If you need to, just put hashtag DCL, which will indicate we've known you've watched the show. Now, if you haven't registered to the platform, feel free to go and find us at sourcinginvestments.co.uk. And the YouTube channel is Sourcing Investments Limited. Some of these parts will be going out on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so forth. Now, without further ado, I'm going to go into a little intro about our agents. But I do encourage you to interact and have those conversations with us with regards to your questions in the chat box so that we can put those forward. We don't bite, and you'll be able to see more of the deal of actually what it is. So without further ado, as I mentioned, I have with us Bruce Mannering of Bond Finance. He's one of the directors of Bond Finance Limited. And basically, they are mortgage brokers who have access to the whole of the market. And I've said this before, but I'm really happy to say that they are dedicated to finding the best deals for their clients. And because of the strong relationships that they've built over the years, they have access to key lenders that you may actually not find with other lending providers. So they have access to products that other lenders don't normally have access to. So they are a little bit ahead in the market with the competitors. And then we have Tim, our investor. So when we went through the top picks today, we noticed, as I mentioned before, that there was this theme coming along. So we have two agents actually that we're focusing on today. One is Ben Coates of Lucid Property. Now, Ben has been an agent with us since 2021. And he's actually been an agent since 2020. Primary location is North Birmingham and Greater Manchester, and he focuses on buy-to-lets, HMOs, and multi-lets as well. And the other agent that we'll be working with today, neither of them are present, we are just reviewing their deals, is Helen Perry of the Property Equation. Now, she operates in Cambridge, Peterborough, Kettering and surrounding areas, and also works with buy-to-lets, HMOs, as well as serviced accommodation and flips. So, Bruce, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to share my screen just so that we can show everyone with my tech abilities, just so that we can show everyone the deals that we're actually going through. And then I'm going to come to you for the product that you've chosen with regards to those deals, if that's okay. So this is the deal by through Ben Coates at Lucid Property Group. This is the buy-to-let I was mentioning. It's actually 75,000 in an area called Barnsley, and it's completely off property. Nice, simple buy-to-let. So, Bruce, what is and then Tim, I'll be coming to you as well for your feedback. So, what is it that you would like to say about this? What product do you have?
Okay, fine. So first of all, this property's purchase price is less than 100,000, so we don't have the whole market to deal with. But if you are a first-time buyer, probably would recommend Kent Reliance. I'm just waiting for my slides to warm up, it seems like. And there we go. So Kent Reliance, if you're a first-time buyer and investing in a single let at 75,000, there's no minimum income. All you have to do is to own your own main residence, and they've got some okay rates. They've got a 2-year fix at 6.39, and they've got a 5-year fix at 6.29, which is the average. Which is the average in the market. Now, I should be able to get you better deals, but if you're a UK national buying your first property, that's sort of benchmark you're looking at. And I'll look to try and improve on that. If you're an overseas national, Octopus would be my lender of choice because they've got a minimum loan of 50,000. It'll be a 2-year deal at 7.25%, fixed for 2 years, and then you would look to remortgage to a lower rate and get perhaps 75% once you've built up your credit profile if you are an overseas investor. So yeah, they're the two products I would look at to start with this particular deal, depending if you're in the UK or overseas.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I'm just going to flick through the pictures so that the investors can see that again whilst you were talking, because I was flicking through. And so with the review that you've done with these, anything that scares you, stands out for you, obviously as an investor, but you're there as the lending expert and you know that that will be okay to move past.
It fits with my golden rule of got to chase yields in high interest rates, and 9% is exactly what you should be chasing in this market. When interest rates are going to remain high for some time, so you need to change your strategy into high yielding, i.e., being high yielding single lets up north, or HMOs, or multi-unit buildings. Is yield you need to chase in this market.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And there is actually a tenant in situ on this property. So with the purchase of this, it will be cash producing instantly. And I believe if I scroll that the rent already currently is 470, if you can see that, and it can be increased around to 575. So there is that potential there as well. There is no cost of any renovation due as well. There are small bits and pieces that I would look at doing, just with regards to a little bit of damp there that we spotted in the pictures. Tim, anything that you would like to add to this?
Yeah, so this one, a great yield. As Bruce said, it's all about the yields at the moment. So personally, I would be working off the fact of increasing the rent to 575. I've got my my special magic sheet that I've got on my other screen here where I do all my calculations. So if I'm looking at purchasing this at 75 as it's advertised here, on a 75% loan to value, would be a mortgage of around about 56,000, just above, and with a rental of 575. And to start with, I'll put in the mortgage rate of 6.39, which is myself as a UK national. And then my letting fees and operating expenses, putting about 10% on each. That still gives me a cash flow of £160 a month, which is way above my stress test. So that's all happy for me. So I like this one from that point of view. If I was looking at doing an overseas national rate of 7.25% on the mortgage, it still gives me a cash flow of £120 a month, which still meets my stress test. So either or for me, this ticks the boxes for me to be able to go, right, okay, all the numbers work. So I'd be happy personally to go ahead and look at this one.
Amazing.
And let's say I was doing the 2-year fixed and I was looking to refinance after 2 years. And the done up value here, we can see, if you scroll down just a little bit, is actually 80,000. The fair market value is 80,000 there. So if I were to remortgage at 80,000 in a couple of years' time, at this, and assuming the same rate, hopefully by that point the interest rates would have gone down a little bit. It still gives me a nice cash flow every month, which is way above my stress test. So personally, I like this one. It's solid. There's no issues. There's already a tenant in, so if worst case scenario, I could still be using the current tenant to pay the mortgage, so no issues there. And it easily passes my stress test. So this would be one I'll be looking at as a definite possible for my own portfolio.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And for our viewers, Tim, would you mind just explaining where your threshold is for your stress test, just for those that may not have been present on previous Steel Clinic lives, what your threshold is? And you mentioned overseas as well, and some may not know why you mentioned that for yourself.
Sure. So yeah, so firstly, a bit of background about myself. I invested, I'm a UK national. I now live in the UK, but I started my property investing journey whilst I was based overseas. So I was living over near Hong Kong area in China. And so when I started investing in the UK, I was on UK national overseas rates. So that basically means my interest rate would have been a little bit higher than if I was living in the UK, because I'm a slightly riskier profile for the lenders by not being in the UK itself. So that's why sorry?
Is that spot on?
Yeah, brilliant. Yep, exactly that. They prefer, obviously, if someone's in the UK, then they prefer to be able to have people in the same island as them. So as a result, anyone who's overseas has a slightly higher interest rate to cover that extra issue of being a little bit riskier. So for me, I would have started on a slightly higher interest rate than I'm on now. So now it's dropped now that I'm back in the UK. But if I were to go overseas again, or anyone else who's investing from overseas, whether you're a UK national or whether you're from another country, then you would be on slightly higher. And my threshold, when you talk about my stress test, I always look for a minimum of £100 cash flow per property. And that covers any kind of extra little issue. Obviously, I want a little bit of profit from each property anyway, but that will cover any extra little issue that I find. Let's say we're coming into the winter season now, so maybe a boiler starts to play up a little bit, so I need an extra call out fee for a boiler. Or I have let's say a vacant period for a month or so between tenants. This extra little bit of cash flow that I make sure I get covers those issues, so that I'm not just working on a zero baseline where all the monthly expenses are covered and I'm not in the negative month to month. I need an extra little bit of leeway just in case something happens like that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And I think that's important for our viewers to know that that's Tim's stress test. And so for yourselves, whatever your strategy is, your criteria is to look at what your stress test would be. It may be a little bit more, it may be a little bit less, but to really stick to that. I was always taught to find where your point is and not flex below. Just to
exactly. Yeah, very, very much. I've got a portfolio of a few properties now, and every one of them is way above this minimum threshold that I look for. It's a base for me. It's a baseline to say anything that doesn't meet that, I don't look at. I just say it is to get through. So I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of deals over the time, and so you just get to the point where you go, does it meet this minimum? Yes, brilliant. Okay, let's go to the next phase. Let's look at the next stage. So yeah. For me, that's always my my basic number 101 for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Bruce, anything else to add?
No, it ticks my box with a 9% yield. You shouldn't really be looking at anything less than that in this market.
Okay, brilliant. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to deal 2, which is the higher yield. This opportunity, but can we share your lending experts first, your deals, your product that you have for this, because this deal is interesting.
Yeah.
This deal is actually, it's a buy-to-let 2-bedroom coach house, but it's also an alternative strategy. So this here is shown as the buy-to-let. This is in Peterborough. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom coach house that's in Peterborough, but it's also advertised on a different link as a potential rent to serviced accommodation. So I'm going to stop sharing, Bruce, and then come to you, if that's okay, with your amazing slides and product.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I'm just going to say hello to our investors. Apologies that I didn't welcome you on before, but I wanted to welcome Deb and Arunima. I hope I've pronounced your names correctly. Mitchell Harris, Patricia Lewin, and Vasca Basek at the moment. Thank you so much. So I think that filled that in really well. Thank you so much, Bruce.
Okay, excellent. So this particular property is quite unique because it looks like one element of flying freehold, which is the driveway underneath, and it's got an annex, and it's got the main part of the building as well. So there's a potential chance of renting both bits of the property out to 2 separate people. And if you're looking on serviced accommodation to do that, both bits, HTB is the lender of choice. If you're a foreign national or if you are a UK national. It's a 5-year fixed rate at 7.9%, but they allow you to short let multi-unit buildings. And they're the only lender in the marketplace which will be happy for you to short let it. They work out the whole rental stress test on the AST income, just in case the short let doesn't work out for you, and you can just rent it out on AST. But they'll also allow you to short let this as a multi-let building, which is unique in the whole marketplace. So do you want to get back to the actual slide itself, and we can actually look? I just want to discuss the actual building itself.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Because
Go for it.
yeah, so this property here, it's got a driveway underneath the property, and this bit here, where can you see my arrow?
I can't see your
No,
arrow because I'm
okay,
sharing.
fine. Okay, fine. All right. So the bit
Yes,
which is
I can see the arrow. I can see the arrow.
okay, fine. The bit which is above here is actually called flying freehold, and what we need to do is find out if that is 20% or more of the overall footprint of the building, because that is pretty much the benchmark for a lot of lenders. They don't want too much flying freehold. But if that is less than 20%, which it looks like, because you've got 2 stories the other side, yeah, HTB would be the lender of choice if you were going to short let this. If you weren't going to short let this, again, I would go, Kent Reliance would lend on this, and also Octopus if you were a foreign national. So
Okay,
we've got lenders who will lend, which is good news.
brilliant. And that's lenders for both options, as a buy to let, as mentioned before, and then also as the serviced accommodation,
Yeah.
the serviced accommodation.
Yeah, and also if they're UK nationals or foreign nationals. So we've got it all covered. We've got it all
All
covered.
angles covered. Love it, love it. Thank you so much, Bruce. Tim, I want to come over to you with just to get some perspective from yourself as the investor. I'm going to flick through the pictures as you speak.
This one's really good. This one is very exciting from a number of levels. Firstly, because it's got the 2 ways to make the income, so already spreading the risk for me, which is great. Also, if I'm looking at serviced accommodation, I do have an Airbnb up in Scotland, and it's doing really well at the moment. So any kind of serviced accommodation is an exciting sort of avenue at the moment, especially with people doing a lot more staycations than they were doing before. For me, I would use the rental side of things as my fallback and say, right, okay, does the rental meet my minimum criteria here? And then also look at the serviced accommodation to say, right, okay, what would be my minimum occupancy threshold to be able to match that? So then I could go, right, is it worth doing the extra, paying the extra utilities, paying the extra Wi-Fi fees to have a good Wi-Fi connection, to have a good all the Netflix accounts and things up and running. So for me, I would be basing the numbers off the 2 rentals, which is 600 and 850. So assuming I've got the numbers that that Bruce was saying before, worst case scenario, if it's a 7.29% interest, at 190,000 purchase for me with 75% loan to value, I would be having a cash flow of about £300 a month, which is, again, more than enough. Brilliant. That's with my letting fees and with my monthly operating expenses. If I was doing serviced accommodation, I would increase my operating expenses, obviously, because I'd be paying the council tax, I'd be paying the sewage, I'd be paying the water, things like that. So I would increase that. And I'd also have a little bit of buffer for extra damages and things like that, because you do have people, let's say, keys breaking the lock because they're not used to how the lock works, things like that. But on a rental, if I was a UK national such as myself on a 6.69, I've got close to £400 a month cash flow, which is a lovely little earner for me. So again, this ticks all my boxes. This is a nice big one. This is one where obviously it's a higher purchase price, so more money left in, obviously more stamp duty, but at the moment, it's, for my calculations, it's all worth it. and is a very good one for me to look at.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. So I think with that, Bruce, anything else to add?
No, it's just I just need to make sure the flying freehold is not more than 20%.
Mm.
That's the only thing on this deal which I would want to check out before making any application.
Yeah, and the footprint of the annex, right? Because that could really
Yeah.
help know what else is on the table. Okay, brilliant. So with that, I am going to flick through to deal 3, which is, apologies, my hovering arrow. Deal 3, which is the title split. So this is a potential of 4 freehold flats in a block and potential title split. So we have here, I'm just going to scroll down, North Yorkshire, 215. We have 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Property is 214 square foot. It's actually on market and fair market value is 240. So this has actually been negotiated at £25,000 saving up front, and it's still negotiable. Price point is still negotiable. If the development goes ahead with the title split, it's a possibility of a GDV 292,000, which would give a gross yield of 10.4. So there is £15,000 worth of renovation costs in order to do that split properly. And then we do have the separate rooms that are currently renting at. So that information is there as well. So Bruce, have you got slides to share with regards to lending on this one, or is it the same?
I do. No, I do. But I just noticed something you've said about the size of the property. 214 square foot sounds remarkably small.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
there's
our
a 0
Smurfs.
missing from that.
Yeah, I think our Smurfs living there. Because yeah,
Very
to
silly.
have 5 bedrooms in 200 square feet. Yeah,
I do think there's a
I would,
0 missing somewhere,
yeah,
I
I
believe.
think
But
there's a 0 missing.
yeah, for
Definitely,
sure. But it does
definitely,
say
definitely.
it does say underneath, actually, in the copy in the body, that it's 214 square meters.
That's more like it.
Yeah,
That's more like it. That's more like it. They put the square foot instead of square meters. Got
yeah,
it.
for
Okay,
sure,
fine.
for sure.
So basically, you're looking at 4 flats, all about 50 square meters, which is great. So they can, under the Council of Mortgage Lenders, they can be individually valued on a bricks and mortar value.
Mhm.
And yes, you can buy it all on one freehold and have all flats on one freehold. You can then hold the property and
Mhm.
perhaps buy it on a 2-year fixed. And then potentially you can look to break it up at a later stage into 4 if you want to sell a unit off or if you want to get 4 individual leases. Look at the numbers there. But a word, a word of warning: putting lots of leases in place is quite expensive.
Mhm.
You've got 4 valuation fees. You've got 4 admin fees. You've got 4 sets of solicitors' fees. You've got 4 sets of leases fees. So, and a lot of the lenders these days, if it's less than 4 flats, they'll give an aggregate value anyway, and they won't put a block discount in. So
Mhm.
if you've got a really big block of flats, should we say 8 flats, and they all suddenly come onto the market, the lender's going to go, that puts me in quite a risky position. I'm going to give it a block discount so I can sell it all off to one investor at one time. And that block discount's normally about 10%.
Okay.
When you've got 4 flats like this, you can sell them off individually, or somebody, I mean, a first-time buyer could actually buy 4 flats at one go. A first-time landlord with Kent Reliance, they will lend to them. So you generally don't get too much of a block discount on 4 flats or less. So I will question: do we actually have to do the leasing? Do we have to do the lease split? in 2 years' time, I would test the water on one mortgage over the whole lot and see where the value comes in. And do you really want to go through the whole expense of putting all those leases in?
Hmm.
But once again, great yield, and lenders love MUBs because you've got multiple sources of income. If you've got one flat empty, the rent coming in will support all the mortgage payments. And so that's why lockdown, MUBs, multi-unit buildings, became very, very, very popular with the lenders because they had very low default rates. Me personally, I love investing in MUBs because you've got somebody else paying the council tax, you've got normally long tenants in there, and you've got multiple sources coming in. So me personally, I do prefer a MUB over an HMO.
Okay, amazing. So with that you've just said, so that would be an aggregate evaluation that you were mentioning before.
Yeah, so an aggregate valuation is flat 1 plus flat 2 plus flat 3 plus flat 4.
Mm-hmm.
The values of that will be the aggregate value. If you had a few more flats, I would then expect the aggregate value plus some sort of block discount of about 10%. And this one seems an absolute. If it is worth close to 300, and you're buying it for 215, a fantastic steal. What you could do is actually bridge it. You could actually bridge it for 6 months potentially, and then do no work to the building, and then remortgage it on the uplifted value of 300,000. And then you are recycling a lot of your cash out. I don't have a calculator with me. What's Tim? What's 300 times 0.75? I think that's 225, isn't it?
Sorry, 300 by 225. Yeah,
225.
yeah.
So yeah, you potentially could be recycling a lot of your cash out if you look to bridge and then do some sort of remortgage in 6 months' time, either on lease or breaking up the leases, or just a remortgage on the MUB value with someone like Kent Reliance. Kent Reliance will lend on this.
Amazing. And you just to come to something that you said there, Bruce, you mentioned first time landlords. So you're able to, as a new landlord in the industry, you don't really need to have, like with HMOs, there's a difference. We need to be able to prove that we are great landlords, that we have that experience, that we're able and capable of doing, the role of a landlord. But when you're buying a block, that's not necessarily the same.
Yeah, yes and no. It's just that Kent Reliance will lend to first-time landlords if it's a 6-bed HMO or if it's a block of flats. A block of flats less than 6. They're quite unique like that. There's not that many lenders will do it. And all my numbers are focused on here is first-time landlords. So I'm giving you the slightly higher rates. And if you are an existing landlord and got one buy-to-let in the background for 12 months, I can give you lower rates. But I like to start high and then come back down. But I think there could be a good strategy here for a bridge, and then look potentially to either split it, title in 6 months, or just remortgage the whole block in 6 months to someone like Kent Reliance.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for that, Tim. I'm going to come to you. I'm going to stop sharing just so that I can check if we have any Q&A. But Tim, if you'd like to give your perspective on this deal.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with pretty much everything that Bruce is saying here. I very much like the idea of bridging to start with, and then getting the increased value after 6 months, refinancing then, and using that extra capital from the refinance to be able to pull a lot more of my money out. There's a good split here with the amount of leeway that we've got in terms of the £15,000 renovation isn't massive compared to the numbers we're talking when it comes to the valuation. If the valuation of it was 70,000 all in, or 75 like the first buy to let, 15,000 is quite a chunk of that. But when you're talking 215 to 300,000, a £15,000 renovation is tiny compared to other potential options. So I'd be doing that. But worst case scenario, let's say I was buying on a mortgage from the very beginning, 215,000. Again, I've used the 6.69%. I've used as my interest rate, with a quick 10% on letting fees and 10% on operating expenses. That would give me close to £700 cash flow a month. Brilliant. I mean, that's lovely for me. That's absolutely spot on. From, yep, as Bruce says, for multi-units where you've got you're spreading your risks. So you've got, let's say you've got one unit that does become empty for some reason. With £700 extra cash flow a month, you're easily covering the overheads of what could go wrong there, which is absolutely brilliant for me. But let's say in another world where I was looking at bridging and then going in and, let's say, getting the full valuation of 300,000 at the end, that's obviously my cash flow is suffering a lot because I've got such a big mortgage. However, I've got I've only got 340,000 ish. No, sorry, let me try that again. £340 a month cash flow, which I'm getting, which is great, but I've got much less money left in. So it's a trade-off between how much money would I want to leave in versus how much do I want cash flow every month. And I'm knocking down the amount of money I'm leaving in by a massive chunk there. And having a mortgage over multiple properties, I've already got that in my portfolio already. I've got one mortgage over a couple of 3 properties in Scotland and another mortgage over 3 properties in England. Those 2 particular ones are doing very well because, as I said, the mortgage is covered by 1 and a bit of my rentals anyway. So the rest for me is just extra. So this fits in nicely with what I'm doing already with my strategy. So I like this a lot. So for me, if I had the capital available, even doing a cash purchase would be brilliant. You're laughing every month with nearly £2,000 worth of income coming in every month. If you're able to do a cash purchase, then this is great. The tolerance we've got is great on this one. So I like this very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I'm just loving how I was going to say a different word, but I'll say lucrative these deals actually are that we picked for this month's show. Just going to remove your spotlight there. So now I'm going to go to the sorry, Bruce, did you have anything else to share about that, about the title?
No, I think me and Tim have covered that off nicely.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm going to go to the final one, which is a house that has been it's been converted already, 100,000 into flat conversion. It's got potential. This is by Ben from Lucid Property Group again, located in Sheffield. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. It's off market again, and it's £120,000. Fair market value is the same, and the price is negotiable. This is a gross yield of 10%. And so, I mean, what do we have to say about the current rent? Is actually achieving 720 at the moment, but there's a potential to increase that to 1,000 per calendar month. So, Bruce, do you have any product? I'm going to stop sharing again so you can share your screen with regards to that.
I mean, this sort of building, I would potentially look at doing some sort of Serco or Mears lease on it, because you've got 2 units there, and potentially you could rent it out on a 5-year lease, especially if you're overseas national. That's quite popular. And the lenders, again, I would use, where's my slides? There we go. Share. Right. And it's just popping back up. So yeah, if you are a UK, come on. Right, if you are a UK national, again, Kent Reliance, good old Kent Reliance, first time buyer, you can use them, but that's if you're renting it out with an AST. Foreign national again, Octopus is there at 7.5. But if you did fancy renting it out on a Circle Mears lease, where you basically go on guaranteed rent for 5 years, Quantum will lend to you at a rate of 7.69 if you're overseas national, 6.69 if you are a UK national. And that seems to be very attractive these days because you're basically handing the keys over, you're collecting all the rent, you've got no management costs, you've got no upkeep of it, and then they give you back the property in 5 years in exactly the same condition, which is very good if you want to be a proper armchair investor. So, yeah, my thoughts on this one, potentially you may want to rent it out on a long-term fixed lease. So that's my thoughts. It's a 10% yield. It works for me. Works for me.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for that. Tim, can I come over to you for your viewpoints, please?
Yes. This is really nice because I've actually got one of my properties on a Serco lease already. So basically, for anyone who doesn't know, Serco and Mears work in longer term housing and create supported living type situations where, let's say, you've got someone who has mental health troubles or some disability. They come in and they help home these people in appropriate houses, and as a result, they get grants from the government, and so you're also able to increase the rent that you take from these guys as well. So for me, for instance, the one I've got on one of these companies is achieving a higher rent than I was with a standard AST, a standard tenancy. You've also got the fact that these guys will cover a lot of the overheads every month. Let's say there's any repairs or anything that they want changing, they'll also pay out for those as well, which is very helpful. There was one on mine, for instance, just a couple of weeks ago where that someone reversed into the side of the wall and they knocked down the bricks of the wall. It was someone that was trying to do a 3-point turn in a small area that wasn't good enough. That actually they covered that cost, and that I didn't, as a landlord, I didn't have to cover that because they get these grants from the government that actually help to do this. So there are a lot of benefits from going on to longer leases, and you've got guaranteed rent for 5 years. So what it'll be that you'll be in contact with someone that sort of manages the person in the property. You won't have contact with the person in the property, and then my management and letting agents deal with them directly, and they're the sort of carers for the individual. So with that in mind, if I'm working on a 7.09% mortgage, as Bruce was just saying, and I'm getting, let's say I'm getting £1,000 a month. Personally, I think it is scope to be able to get that a little higher, but I'll work on £1,000. That's giving me a very nice cash flow. And actually, my monthly operating expense, I could probably take down to a 5%. Let's say just in case. So that also gives my increase. So I'm getting over the £320 a month cash flow from that, and that's lovely. That's really nice. That's great. And very little upkeep. If there is an issue with the boiler, they would be covering it with the guaranteed rent type schemes. If there's an issue with a window, an issue with a hole in the wall, something like that, or they want to change something to fit the need of that particular tenant. Let's say they have trouble, not on this case as it's flats, but let's say they do have trouble getting up and down stairs or something like that, they would fit a little chairlift because they can do that. So that wouldn't be any cost to you. So for me, yep, cracking. I like this one. I personally, as Bruce said, would look to put it on a Serco or Mears type guaranteed rent, and minimize my hassle. That's a big part, minimizing your own hassle. And having it as 2 converted 1-bed apartments, again, you're minimizing your risks. So if for some reason something happens and you don't get any income from one of them, the other one is covered. Or if they're both on Mears or Serco type contracts, you're laughing for the next 5 years. So yep, that's my take. I like it, again, as with the others.
Amazing. I really love that. And the Serco and Mears strategy work. I mean, it doesn't have to be with those 2 companies. There are smaller companies out there that have similar contracts and that can guarantee that rent. But they are very useful. And as you mentioned there, quite rightly, Tim, they do eliminate the oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for?
The
void
management costs.
Management costs.
Management costs and voids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know, if you don't
and any repairs.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So really, for me, this strategy is like a cash machine. Literally, it's an ATM. So okay, brilliant. And so anything else with regards to that? Do you have anything like this, gentlemen, in your portfolio?
Personally, I've got the one I've got on a guaranteed rent. It's an end terraced, so it's a similar type of building to this, but it is a 2-bed terraced, up one up, one down, or sorry, 2 up, 2 down, rather than split into flats. And that one, it's on the end, and that one is on a Mears lease. But I do also have a 2 up, 2 down that's split into 2 flats, and it used to be a dentist on the bottom, which they then converted into a 1-bed flat with a 2-bed flat above it. And that one's great because, again, it's just one title, it's one house or one fee in terms of having all the mortgage valuations, having all your and any kind of searches done. It's one fee, but it's still 2 incomes. So yeah, I do have something like this, and I definitely would look to do another one as well.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And with regards to this strategy, Tim, as an investor, is there anything that you would, if you were brand new to this and this was going to be maybe your first or second deal, is there anything now that you have the wisdom around that? Is there any advice that you would, not advice, but maybe something to bear in mind to anybody that's new to this or new to this strategy?
It would mainly be a case of expecting the worst in terms of fees and hoping for the best. So do all your numbers and calculations based on 2 lots of fees for 2 valuations for flats, but hoping the fact that the mortgage company would be able to do it as 1 valuation, or like making sure you've got a little bit of leeway each month for your void periods. So working to worst case scenarios rather than working to your hoped best case scenario, and then anything above that is the bonus. So then you know that for sure that in the worst case scenario you're still laughing in terms of what you're bringing in every month, what your costs are, and what your overheads are versus what your profit's going to be, rather than thinking, this, like, they'll do it like this will be fine, there'll be no issue. Think of all the extra little things that might come in, and just prepare for it, and just say, right, I'm going to put this aside as a contingency just in case, and expect to use it with the hope that you don't.
Okay, amazing. And so then with that will bring me to you, Bruce, with regards to any advice that you could potentially advise, or maybe signposts that you could give to investors that come to you and are looking at this as the first strategy that they're looking at.
I would definitely do my due diligence on any property I buy. I'm looking at down the whole street. What are the average house prices in that area? Is the property next door derelict? Or I just do my due diligence. Is there any commercial behind that property? So get to know the area, get to know the house prices, and and that will help you get more comfortable with the price you're actually paying for it. That's my top tip. And then mortgage wise, it's difficult currently to get mortgages. Okay, so be nice to your broker and give him the information nicely, not all garbled up where he's trying to pull everything out and put it back together.
I think that's really important to be able to. And is that something that you guide them with, like how to be methodical about that information, how to be systemized, and the process to follow? Because sometimes I think we as humans, we just want to give everything all at once, but actually that may not really help the flow.
No, so we give a nice little list out of a shopping list. So all you can do is just follow the shopping list, keep it in the right order, and it just helps. If you've got any rent coming in and mortgages going out, just put a note in the bank statement to which property it relates to. If the reference number's not there, So it's tricky these days. Lenders are asking a lot more questions based because of the cost of living. And they're looking, it feels like they're looking to trip you up. I'm sure they're not, but it feels like that.
Yeah. And I'm sure maybe as investors, and Tim, you may be able to explain this a little bit better, just based on what Bruce has just said about asking more questions. As a first-time investor, we may have the mindset of, oh my God, they're going to find out that I haven't got X, Y, Z. What am I going to do? And really, it's just about being upfront and honest with the lender of, this is actually what I have. This is what I feel confident and capable of purchasing, because as well, there's a confidence thing here around what we can purchase and what we are capable of handling as a first-time investor. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. It's with what Bruce was saying, it's about, it also helps you when you're putting everything in a nice logical systematic order and going through everything, going through the sort of books of what you're looking at. If you've already got a property or two, making sure that you're labeling everything. But this is where purchasing through a limited company comes in as well. So if your deal that you've got in front of you, if the deal stacks and the numbers are good, then there's no reason why the lending won't come, because they're lending on the property rather than lending on you. If you're doing it through yourself and you're doing it as a person and investing and purchasing under your own personal name, then that's when they're going to look more at your individual circumstances, your what property you've got already, what you're living in, what work you're doing, what your salary is. Whereas it's an asset, if you're doing it as a limited company, they're going to take a glance at you, but they're not going to, that's not going to be the be all and end all. It's going to be a case of, what is that property looking like as a good asset for them to be lending on, and what security are they getting back as part of their lending. So it helps you out doing everything systematically and having everything filed and labeled, all your calculations, any kind of spreadsheets you're sending, any kind of bank statements being labeled at the start, so you could the people can go through and look. And then they're not irritated as well. They're looking at the information with a nice head, a nice calm head, rather than being irritated. Go, oh, I need this, but I can't find it. This is all jargon here, there, and everywhere. So it's these little nuances that really do help, that I found.
That's so key, and I think it's important to follow the process. And sometimes, I know for myself, sometimes you want to jump ahead to step 6, but you have to actually take step 1 first. Right.
Exactly. I have for my, when Bruce was talking about doing the due diligence, I have a 4-stage due diligence process that I look at for every property that I look to put an offer in, and I only go to the next stage of my due diligence if it passes the previous stage. So then I'm not wasting time. If it doesn't pass, let's say stage 1 is the basics, stage 2 is the numbers, stage 3 is looking at the exit, and stage 4 is looking at all the ins and outs of, is it a great area, what investment is coming in the area in the future. If it doesn't get past stage 1, which can take a little bit of time, then you just throw it out and look at the next one, to stop using all your time up doing all these little bits. And what you'll find is, as you go through your own due diligence process, you're also putting things and filing things so you can make sense of it, and then you're passing that on to your broker, and then you're passing it on to your teams as well, so they can make sense of it. So yeah, due diligence is key, and it's just it's, I think someone described it to me very well, is you've got the black and white and you've got grades of shade, let me try that again. Black and white and shades of grey around it, and the shades of grey are the things that actually make the difference between making things easy versus making things a little bit more challenging.
That's really good advice. I thank you for sharing that. And I think you mentioned there about the mindset, about, I think what you mentioned there about step 1, if it doesn't pass step 1, stop trying to make it work. It just simply doesn't work for your strategy, right? And your criteria levers. And you mentioned there, like, hundreds of deals. It's having that mindset around, there's hundreds of deals out there, so you don't cling to that one deal wishing it works when there are several hundreds of deals out there that absolutely will work. And it's just having the time and taking the time to find that one.
Exactly. You can't put a square peg into a round hole. So what works for you is going to work for you. It doesn't mean that someone else is saying, oh, this is a great deal, you can't miss out. If you miss out, then it's not for you. Things will happen. You'll go through deals, you'll go through offers, you'll put offers in, you'll get offers rejected, you'll miss a deadline. There'll be things that happen where you think you found a great deal, but actually it doesn't work out. And the key is not to get emotionally tied to it. There's so many deals out there. There's so many areas. There's so many things that will work. It will work when it's going to work. So it's making peace with the fact that this is a process, and you've got to go through. There'll be a good lot of offers that are rejected. There'll be a good lot of ones that don't go through. It's just about going to the point where you go, right, I'm at peace with, I know what I'm doing. I know my stuff. And so when the right one comes along, you got the level head and you've got the right frame of mind to be able to make it work, rather than going, oh, well, this might work if I could get this done, then this will make the deal work, and then I can make it stack. But too many if, buts, and maybes. You need something that's more concrete, and that's in your own mind. That's knowing what you're looking for, knowing the strategy that you're looking for, and knowing what your minimum. This is why I have my stress test, so I know the minimums of what I need. If it doesn't meet that on a worst case scenario, then I'll move on to another one, and that's part of the process of understanding what is going to work for your situation, what other commitments you have, what other outgoings you have, what other things that will affect how this goes. And so everyone's different, and it's making peace with that and knowing what fits you. That's the key.
Yeah, I love that. And then just to touch on that, you mentioned, what works and to give you peace of mind. There's so many different elements. And I think once you know what you want, why you want it, and to follow those key elements, that will give you peace of mind, as well as systems and processes like Bruce was mentioning, to present the work, present the findings. Always follow the numbers. I was taught, always follow the numbers. The numbers will give you the clues, and present your findings then to your lending expert, who will then be able to help you with regards to the finance of that. And then with money as well, I know, entering into this industry, there's a lot of scary stories out there, right, with regards to money. And do you pay up front? Should I pay up front? Shouldn't I pay up front? What do I pay? Is my money safe? There's a real importance there with regards to peace of mind, to having the client account, which we have on Sourcing Investments, which protects both the agent and the investor, because there are horror stories out there, and that's a really key element too as well. I'm sure you've got horror stories as well, Tim. Feel free to share those if you can. But that's important, right? To be able to give yourself, as an investor, that peace of mind. Because I know Bruce is an investor as well, as a lending expert.
Exactly. What you're doing with all this is you're taking emotion out of the equation. And so it's got to be the very crux of all this is about exactly what you said, following the numbers. And as soon as you're getting too nervous or too emotionally involved in one way or the other, then you start to lose the right judgment on whether this is actually a good business asset to be buying. And having the client account gives you the complete peace of mind to know, right, okay, this is trustworthy, this is a process, this is something that is proven, it's insurance backed, it's ring fenced, it's great. I've done the first deals that I've been through the client account, and I use it time and time again for that very reason, to say, right, okay, well, yes, the whole thing is a nerve-wracking experience when you're getting involved, because you are talking about larger sums of money, but you're doing it in the most secure way. You're not giving it to someone that you don't necessarily know too well, or you've just formed a business relationship with, and you don't have years and years of experience to know how they handle what's going on their end. Are they having things, multiple things going on in the background their end? The client account is the crux of everything being solid, secure, and taking the emotion out of it. So definitely for me, I've used it. I used it on my very first purchase. A million times better in terms of being able to make sure that I've got the trusted, and also to keep your family happy, to keep my wife happy, so she knows that I'm working with trusted systems and things like that as well, because it's a commitment for people around you as well. So yeah, and what about you, Bruce? Have you had any situations where it's been tricky?
I've been quite lucky because everything I've bought, I've known the area, and I've built up that relationship with the agents over some time. So it's a little bit different when you're buying at a distance. It's more like an arm with this, because these are arm length transactions. You need someone like Sourcing Investments to sort of hold your hand All the stuff everything I've bought, I grew up in the area, and I've known the agents for some time. So I haven't really done arm's length transactions, so I'm not that great to comment on that. So sorry.
No, I think you've actually mentioned something really important there, that, obviously we've got a multitude of agents, the investors may not know them. And so what Tim has mentioned there is the importance of the escrow service.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you have known your agents, you know them because they're in the area, you've had that relationship with them, and that client account will be able to be there as almost like the safety net until they get to know that agent and have worked with that agent on a consistent basis. So I really love that.
Yeah, very much so. And especially if you're not in the same country, where when I was starting out, when you've got masses of ocean between you, it's not an easy case of driving sort of 15 minutes to go have a conversation with that person, or go around and speak with the people on the ground. You need something where you're covered from that point. And for me, it keeps the anxiety at bay a huge amount for that point. So yeah, great stuff.
And you mentioned something important there as well, Tim, just to finally touch before we jump out of this month's Steel Clinic Live, that it's not just the peace of mind, it's the relationships that you have with your loved ones around you, because it can also, any stress that you have from that can filter into relationships. So I love that you mentioned that, and thank you for sharing, because it does keep relationships in a harmonious level, because that aspect has already been taken care of.
100%, yeah, completely. That you're playing with large sums of money, and you're playing with essentially what is two of you. If you are in a partnership, or if you've got a family, you're playing with the livelihoods and the ability for everyone to either have a great life and make the life better, or it can be stressful. There can be things that go wrong, and you need to make sure you put safety nets in place for not only yourself but your loved ones around you, and also to be able to keep your relationships stress-free, because there will be times where you get tested. Property investing isn't the easiest thing in the world, otherwise everyone would be doing it. There are things that can go wrong, and so it's about mitigating the risk and doing everything you can to protect yourselves and the people around you. And without that, you've got to make sure you listen to the people, the concerns of the people close to you, because there'll be valid concerns, and act accordingly.
Love it. Thank you so much. Okay, I think, Bruce, have you got any, before we jump out, finally, any final words from yourself, Bruce?
No, I like those deals. I really do. Good yields and good opportunities. So well done. Good picking, Bonnie.
Oh, thank you, team. I appreciate you both.
Good picking sources as well. A great find on the sources. Both Helen and Ben. There's some cracking deals. So I like them all.
Great agents. Okay, brilliant. Well, I want to thank you both for attending. As always, it's always a joy to present with both of you. And I would love to thank our guests who are with us live. So we have Gerard, Patricia, and Vasca, who have stayed till the end, and all of you that watch this on the replay. And until next month, thank you for watching. Stay happy, healthy, and wealthy. And I shall see you all for the next month's Steel Clinic Live. Bye for now.